In this video, I'm going to be going through every single symbol on the VFR sectional, even the tiny ones that no one ever really looks at, don't even matter much. We're going to go through every single thing because a lot of the videos out there just go through the generic ones that are also on the legend, but the legend leaves a lot of things out, so I'm going to try to fill you guys in. So first, we're going to start with this yellow area on the map. This is a heavily populated area. So it's good to know that you're gonna fly a little bit higher in that zone. This next spot right here, this black box surrounding Palm Springs, is a tersa, and the altitude of the tersa is the black numbers that look like a fraction right in the middle of it. This next long line with arrows along it is a power line, which is helpful to know if you're flying around there. And these symbols with the pickaxe are mines or quarries that are in that area. This double gray line is a freeway. If you keep scrolling along it, you could see which freeway exactly it is. This one specifically is the 10 freeway. And over here, we have a VFR military training route. And the one over to the right is with an I, and that means it's an IFR military training route. So both military training routes, just for different types of traffic. Next, we have a crazy little intersection here that is called Shady, and it's where a bunch of different VOR radials are intersecting to make a waypoint for you to travel to. You can also plug it in as a GPS waypoint and route to it. This whole area with the blue teeth is a restricted area, and the magenta teeth border is depicting a military operating area. Boxes like this down below are giving you advisory information or instructions that you'll want to know if you're flying through that area. All of them are very different, so always check it if you're going to be flying through. And then around this symbol up here are frequent glider operations. Okay, back up to Palm Springs area, there's a lot more to talk about. These little guys over here are windmills, and the dots around them I think are telling us that there's a lot of strange wind patterns in that area. The little parachute symbol obviously means that there's parachute jumping in that area. And the giant magenta dash line is known as the isogonic line, or a line of variation. And when you see a blue dotted area like this, that means there's a wilderness area that you'll want to fly 2,000 feet or higher over. The giant blue number is the elevation of the mountain. It gives you a couple 100-foot clearance from what the mountain altitude is actually at. And this flag down here is a visual waypoint that you can use when you're trying to navigate to somewhere. And also, any of these tiny little black squares here are different landmarks that you can also use as visual waypoints when you're planning a route towards an airport. This next line that says TAC on it is basically a specific area of the sectional that you can buy separately, and it covers very busy airspaces. This one is covering San Diego, and it just gives you a better summary, I guess, of that part of the sectional. These smaller numbers here are the actual elevation of the ground in MSL. Any circle with a R is a private airport. This line shooting off of VOR is a Victor Airway used for IFR traffic, and the number on the line in this box here is the total mileage of the airway in nautical miles. And then this line over here, kind of going through these mountains, is obviously just a road, normal road there. The giant ring surrounding the VOR is kind of, the VOR is placed at an airport, and all these rings, there's basically 360 radials shooting off of the VOR. You could see tiny little numbers associated with each of those radials around the VOR. Since this one is at the airport, they don't actually draw the VOR symbol, but for reference, there's one right up here. So this is a VORTAC symbol right here. There's three different types of VORs. VORTAC is one of them, the one that we just looked at. The next one is a normal VOR. This is how it looks. And finally, the VOR DME looks just like this. And next to the VORTAC, it tells us the name of the VOR itself. And next to that is its frequency, its channel, the identifier for it, and the Morse code that you can make sure you have the right VOR with. These mountain looking things over here are a group of obstacles, and the top number is MSL, the bottom number is AGL, which is really important to remember. I'm sure that one will come up on the check ride. Now let's talk about some of these airports over here. Palm Springs, runway, as you can see here, is shown in blue, meaning it's a towered airport. And the reason that it doesn't have a circle around it, like the one right to the right of it, is because it has a runway that's greater than 8,069 feet. And that one with a circle around it to the right, it has a runway shorter than 8,069 feet, and it is magenta because it's an untowered airport. And then there's also some ticks that go around the airport circle there. That means that the airport provides fuel and services there. Scrolling up a bit, this airport up here is a military airport because it has two circles around it. And since there's no runway line inside of the circle and it's not filled in, that means that it's a soft surface runway, so it could be like a grass or a dirt strip. And up here, there is an airport with a U on it, and that means it's an unverified field, so maybe a runway that hasn't been checked out yet. And then there's also ones with H's on them. These stand for heliports. There's ones with X's. Those are going to be abandoned runways that you can probably use for a good emergency landing spot, so they're still pretty useful. Then there's ones with an F on them that are for ultralight flight parks. And finally, if there's an anchor symbol on the airport, that means it's a seaport. This box right here is a flight service station box. It tells you the area of the flight service station, and it puts the frequency on the top, and they spread these apart the map across the map for you to have one available to you in each sector that you're flying through. The tiny blue dot like this means that there's a marine light or a water well at this lake, and these tiny little beige circles are oil wells. This long line with ticks in it is a railroad. Going down here, this plane symbol with an A means that there's aerobatic flights in the area. At Big Bear, we have lines that represent aerial cable, which would probably be ski lifts here. That would make the most sense. And then off to the left a little bit, there's these circles with arrows inside of them, and those are specifically lookout towers. Up here, we have a glider operation symbol, and these magenta dots around the circle represent that there's a non-directional beacon, which is similar to a VOR, and it has its little information box right next to it. The bold magenta line is Class Charlie airspace. The blue dashed line is Class Delta airspace, and the blue bold line would be Class Bravo airspace. Over here we have some more marine lights along the way, and these blue dots are connecting the airport information to its rightful airport so that you don't get confused. Up a little ways, we have this dashed magenta line here that's telling us that echo starts from the surface, and these magenta diamonds that are spread out are stadiums that are in the Los Angeles area. And if we go a little bit offshore here, we have the Mode C veil that always surrounds big airports like San Diego. This one is for Los Angeles. There's another one at San Francisco. So those are all over the place. These numbers here are coordinates on the map put on each connecting sector. Right here we have Class Echo airspace on either side of the shaded magenta line. And below there is a huge warning area. These are always off of the coast, and you have to be very careful because they look exactly like restricted areas. And even right here at the top, we have a restricted area that you definitely don't want to fly through and confuse it for a warning area, or you'd get in a lot of trouble. So be careful when you're going through warning areas. Make sure there's no hidden restricted areas nearby. These are marine areas around these islands right here, and you're legally not allowed to fly below 1,000 feet here. This long zipper area tells you the altitude of Class Echo airspace using the numbers on either side of it. Then we have the ADIS line, which basically the US uses to identify planes that are crossing into US territory, and if it's an unidentified aircraft, then the military will intercept it. This rocket symbol is a space launch zone, and to the right of that, there's some gray dashed lines that are surrounding those military training routes that we talked about earlier and telling us the altitudes that they are flying at, the military traffic. The only other lines that were kind of hard for me to find on the map are the national security areas, which you're never allowed to fly into, and those are just like a red, bold red line. And then prohibited areas, which look exactly like restricted areas or warning areas, but they have a P inside of them, so that's how it's depicted. And that's about everything that I can think of on the sectional. So I hope you learned a lot about some new sectional symbols. And if there's any that I forgot, let me know down below. And that's it. Peace.